I'm Micah Smith, and in this quick tip, we're going to take a look at exporting a bot from the Automation 360 control room. So this is a question that I actually get kind of frequently because we share a lot of bots on the dev portal. We shared some for Imagine that people could import into their control room. And they say, hey, how do we actually export these bots from our control room ourselves? So let me talk about that. Now, before we dive into exactly how to do that, and I'm going to show you on my control room, we want to talk about a couple prerequisites. So the first is you have to have permissions to actually do the export. I know that might seem obvious, but this may be one thing that you overlook. Hey, I don't see the export button. I'm not able to actually do the export. You want to make sure that you have export bots defined on your role. And I've got my admin page up here so I can show you this. On the role itself, right? This is a custom role that I created called Custom Bot Developer. You want to make sure that you have this export bots permission. This has to be enabled for you to be able to do your export. Additionally, you want to make sure that on this bots tab right here, that you have access to this public directory, right? So if I didn't have access to the public directory, I wouldn't be able to export anything from the public directory. So you'll want to make sure that both of those two are in place. So just wanted to call that out to start off with. The second prerequisite is you must have the bot in the public directory. So I cannot export from a private directory. I have to have that bot in the public directory first before I can actually do the export. And again, I'll show you that here when we get to our live demo in my own control room, but just make note of that. The third and final point is that you must be using Automation 360. We previously called this Automation Anywhere A2019 Enterprise, but you have to be able to use that version. You cannot export directly from Community Edition. So you won't be able to export bots from Community Edition, but if you are using Automation 360, you'll be able to follow along with me and do this exact same thing. Great. So let's switch over to my control room here. And right now I'm in my control room. I'm in my private bots directory. So this is what I was talking about before on those slides. I've got the private tab up here. And in my private bot directory, let's go back here to bots. I'm going to scroll down to quick tips, and I'm just going to export one of the bots that we used previously for a quick tip. So there's one called advanced string manipulation. I'm going to go ahead and select to export that bot. Now you can see I don't have the option to export from here, right? I can import, but I can't export. And that's because I'm on my private directory. So I'm going to go to that advanced string manipulation. I'm going to select to check in that task bot. Now, when I check it in, I can give some kind of comment. Let's say quick tips export demo. I can hit check in. Okay. Now at that point, the bot is going to exist in the public directory. It will not exist in my private directory anymore. Okay. It only will exist in public. If I need to make modifications to it, I can check it back out. That would put it back in private. But notice at the top here, I do have the ability to export bots. So what I'm going to do is highlight over, this is the three dots here. This is called a kebab menu. So I'm going to highlight over that, and I'm going to click this button to export bot. Now, when I do that, I have a couple things that I can choose from here. Now, the first is my export name. What do I want to call this? You probably want to name it something that's specific to your bot plus a date and time. And the reason I say that is because this ultimately gets built on the control room server as a zip file. And it's only going to allow for unique names for files. So I'm going to call this one quick tips export string, what do we call this? Manipulation. And I'll just put the date. So I recorded this on 5/24/21. Cool. Now, in this screen for my bots and files, I can choose all of the bots that I want to include in this export. It doesn't just have to be that one bot that I selected. If I had bots that were dependencies or other files that were dependencies, those would automatically be detected. They should show up here on the selected side. I could also go back through and find those manually. If I had other bots that I wanted to export, right? Like here's a Twitter bot. If I wanted to export that bot as well, I could include that and then just move it over here to the right-hand side with this arrow. So technically, I could export a ton of stuff at once. It doesn't just have to be a single bot. Now, based on the way I named the zip, probably should be a single bot. This particular bot doesn't have any dependencies, so this page is blank for me. If you had a bot that was calling subtasks or had dependencies on other files that were stored in your control room, those would show up as well. Now, the last part I want to show here is actually quite important, and my bot was not terribly advanced, right? It was just using the message box and some string actions within the string package. Notice though that the version of these is 2.0.0 and 3.0.0, and each of those correspond to specific dates. Here, 6/24 of 2020, and same for that one, right? I can choose to include the packages with my export or not. Now, there's definitely a pro and a con side of this. If I choose to include them, the zip file that I'm exporting is going to be significantly larger, right? Because it's going to include the jar files for all of the packages and their specific versions that were being used within my bot. If I choose to exclude those, obviously my export will be about quite a bit smaller. But if the control room that I'm installing this bot on doesn't have those same versions, I'll have to make modifications to the bot before I could actually run it. And those modifications would be, hey, it was using message box version 2.0.0. This new control room I'm importing it into only has message box 2.5.1. I don't know, right? So I can choose to include those or I can choose to exclude them. It really depends on your situation. You would know your control rooms. So if I'm moving from my test environment to prod, do I want to include that? Is prod always in sync with test as far as the packages that are installed, stuff like that. For our example, I'm going to leave these on here. But again, if you're trying to keep the bot export relatively small, you can choose to exclude bot packages, or you can choose to only include bot packages that might be custom, right? Hey, maybe all control rooms have the message box and the string. I think it's probably fine if we upgrade versions, but they wouldn't have this one custom package that I've been using. And so I could choose one by one to choose to exclude or include different packages. So I just wanted to give you that background so that you exactly know what to expect with this. So I'm going to hit export bots and files. Now, at this point, what's happening on the control room side is it's actually building that zip file with whatever I said should be in there, right? Whatever bots, whatever dependency files, whatever packages that should be included. Now, it's going to send me an email, and it's going to send me an email with a link, and I think it just showed up. That's what you heard vibrating over here on the table. That was the link to the actual download. Now, there's two ways that I can access that download. One is through that email that comes, and it has a little text that says, hey, click here to download the file. The other option is for me to go up to activity, and then I can go to historical. And again, this depends on you having access to this as a part of your role. I do. So I'm going to go here to my completed export. Here I can see that it says, hey, this bot was exported. I can click the download exported zip file. And here it's already downloaded the file for me. Very last thing I want to show you. I want you to look at the structure of what we just downloaded here. So I'm going to open that up. At the top or the root level here, I have the jar files which represent the packages that my bot was using. And again, we said to include those, so that's why they're here. This folder structure is mimicking exactly what I'd used before I uploaded it, right? So it's in the bots directory. Inside of that, it's in the quick tips folder. And then inside of that, we have my actual bot, which was called advanced string manipulation -substrings. Okay, so if you need to share a bot with someone, or you need to export a bot and move it to another environment, share it with another developer, and you want to keep it off of the control room to do that, this is how you can export those bots. This is how you can move them around. That's how you manage exactly what's going to be exported and how big the export should be, and different ways you can cut down on the export size. Hopefully this quick tip was helpful. My name is Micah Smith. Go be great.